Beautiful, beautiful pencils. I love being able to see the stuff, especially when you see it at that size. It's really mind blowing. You know, it's kind of like when you go to a museum and you see, you know, a large painting that you like see like on the internet or something, and then you see it in person. You go, oh my God. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's obviously not the originals, but it's as close to the originals as possible. And that's why I love these books so much. Today we're going to do a video a little bit differently than I normally do because this book is so large, and I'm kind of doing a commentary track in this video. First time doing this, so I only have a certain amount of time per page, but this is the Steve Ditko Artist Edition that was recently just put out, I think by Skybound. And man, this is a great book. I will say that I took a look at this before I made the video and spent a little bit of time with it, and it really is a beautiful one. Steve Ditko, in my opinion, is one of the greatest artists of all time. I was sour on Ditko for a long time, but which is weird. I don't know why I was sour on Ditko, but over the time, he's actually become one of my favorite artists of all time. I always thought that, like, oh, it was, you know, between him and Kirby, and man, you know, you got to be on either one camp or the other. Got to be a Kirby fan or a Ditko fan. But man, I just appreciate Ditko so much. The thing that I love about Ditko the most is his figure drawing. His figure drawing is really great. I love his proportions. There's something so interesting about. Sorry about the camera angles that I'm using. It gets better, I promise. But man, there's something about his proportions and just the way he draws faces and the way he draws anatomy. I just adore his stuff. Now, this early stuff, it seems a little bit more Archie-like. I feel like he was just kind of getting into his flow at this point. But man, the stuff still looked great. And I mean, you got Jack Kirby, you know, breathing down your neck at this point, putting out Fantastic Four and all the great stuff that he's doing at this time. I don't even know if X-Men and stuff like that came out at this point, but you got Kirby, you know, Kirby, and you know, I guess you feel like you have this kind of like shadow over you. But man, Ditko really drew some great stuff. Very dynamic stuff, very similar to Jack Kirby in the sense that he never drew a boring panel, honestly. Even the panels where people are talking to each other, stuff is just really dynamic and interesting. I really, really love taking a look at this stuff. Yeah, man. Great compositions, too. Great things he's doing with storytelling. You know, because they're using that was a 9-panel grid most of the time. Kind of that old school way of storytelling. And he's doing some really dynamic stuff. Larger panels, and the figures are really, really dynamic. So, we finally switched the camera. I think hopefully it looks a little bit better at this point. I love the way he draws the Spider-Man suit. Like, to me, he's the Spider-Man artist. I know everybody talks about like Todd McFarlane and, you know, other artists who have done Spider-Man over the years. And, I don't know, Ditko is kind of my Spider-Man artist, really, even though it was made way before I was alive. But man, it's that classic stuff, you know. You really have to appreciate where, like, the origin, and man, the origin for Spider-Man is really great. I love what he's doing right there with the eyes on Spider-Man. Really, really dynamic stuff with just even the facial features. I know that people talk about John Romita sort of being the guy who drew great faces, especially women. And man, I don't know. I think Steve Ditko gets a bad rap, and people don't really realize how beautiful the women that he draws are and the faces that he draws. And the covers and the splash pages are all really interesting. There's some splash pages in here that look a little busy, like there's just a lot of stuff going on. And I imagine that's probably Stan Lee's direction. But yeah, man. I also love the lettering too. So the other thing about this book, is that Steve Ditko is not only penciling it, but he's also inking it. And there's actually some pages later on where you can see his pencil work. And it's really, really interesting to see how kind of fully formed it was right before he took the ink to it. So that's kind of the benefit. Great stuff with underwater. Man, just very dynamic. I love it. I love an artist because that's what, you know, I feel like comic books should not be stiff and boring. I think that they should be very, very dynamic. And to see this dynamism so early in comics is really a beautiful thing. And I feel like comic books back from the 60s, really, a lot of them don't age well, but that Kirby and Steve Ditko stuff really ages beautifully. Great expression there on the top right of that woman. Man, Lizard looks really, really cool. The other thing, also, character designs. I don't know how much Stan Lee had to do with the character designs, but I mean, Steve Ditko's character designs are really, really cool and really creative. And great hands, doing a lot of great stuff with Spider-Man. This is kind of Spider-Man starting to kind of go in those weird, doing those weird twists and turns. Very dynamic figure drawing. I love it. Absolutely love it. Great cover here, which we're going to look at in a second. Drawing a great airplane. You got to learn how to draw everything if you want to be a comic book artist. And, Ditko really does know how to draw a lot of stuff. Great cover here. Vulture comic. I love what he's doing with inking there with just those lines going down, kind of representing his suit. Very interesting, dynamic stuff. Great perspective, too. Just really, really creative stuff. Awesome foreshortening as well. I kind of look at it from the standpoint of what I'm trying to get better at as a figure artist. And man, if you want to become better at being a figure artist, like Steve Ditko is a guy that you can absolutely look at 100%. And man, I love how Spider-Man up there hits the ground and his body kind of goes in the right direction. And he does a lot of great stuff with underwater stuff, like I said earlier, and the body moves very differently underwater. And Steve Ditko just figured out how to do it. I don't know what he used for reference. We're going to look at later on the iconic piece of where Spider-Man lifts that large thing off of his shoulders, and then there's some underwater stuff. And he just really, I don't know what he was using for reference, honestly. Again, a lot of great stuff with those books kind of, like going all over the place and the paper falling and him jumping on top of the Vulture. Just really, really interesting. And it's awesome because he has New York City right outside, of his window, and he's drawing great in New York City kind of scape, but it also kind of feels comic booky as well. There's like elements of realism and the comic book feel too, which I think is really cool, how he's able to capture that. Again, doing some great foreshortening there with that head kind of being in the front and that body doing that awesome kind of dynamic pose. I have to go a little bit faster when I talk because I'm moving so fast with the camera. Great webbing too. Awesome webbing. Great faces on women as well. Electro looks fucking cool, man. Like, some of the drawings he does with Electro are so cool. He's doing some great stuff with the water as well. There. And not afraid to draw those guns, man, in a time where everything was under the Comics Code authority. And, man. Look at that face there. Wow. Beautiful face there. Dynamic punch there. Great. And that guy, you can feel the weight of that guy getting punched by Spider-Man. Like how much power Spider-Man's punch has. And it's a lot. Kicking, the way he kicks that, I don't know what it is, a bucket of paint or something. All right, so we have some Scorpion stuff. Again, very dynamic. Skipped a few pages because I kind of want to get to the meat and potatoes of the book. Doing a lot of great stuff in the air, too, with Green Goblin there. Great Green Goblin, too. Again, awesome character design, with the hoverboard, too. I don't know how much of that, again, was Stan Lee, how much of it was Steve Ditko. But everything looks so natural, like real, like how people would actually move, and it's so beautiful. That's the original cover, I think, or no, that's the variant cover on the book. I like the original, the cover A or whatever is the one I have because, man, that's one of the most iconic comic book covers of all time. Like this splash page looks a little busy there. Sorry, trying to get everything on the page. Again, Spider-Man just jumping in the air feels so natural. Probably looking at those My Bridge books for sure. If you've ever seen them, they're like a bunch of photographies of people moving, photographs, excuse me. It's like a photography book of a bunch of people moving around, and I'm sure that Ditko had that for sure. Also, some great stuff. I skipped that beautiful cover there. All right, so we're back, and we have more dynamic poses of Spider-Man, doing some really great stuff. A lot of great movement. I mean, I just love the way, again, I love the way he draws his anatomy. It just, it looks so, I don't know, it looks so different than Kirby's. And it just looks, the best way I can describe it is it just looks like this very interesting level of realistic and cartoony at the same time. And then I love that where Green Goblin is holding Spider-Man. Skipping past so many great panels, but I only have so much time in a day. So, and then we get to the pencils here. My one gripe about this book, by the way, I just want to say, is that I feel like in the middle it sort of doesn't open flat. I wish it was more of a flat open book. I'm going to keep this part in because whatever. But man, those pages are really seeing a lot of age there, a lot of wear. More great underwater and in water stuff. The body moves just so naturally in the panels that he's doing the underwater stuff. More great panels here that I'm skipping. I love that panel there. That's awesome. So cool. Creative. And then we get to the pencils. So if you look at the pencils, I mean, if you compare them to the ink, I mean, they're pretty tight in comparison to the ink. And I love how he's setting up the balloons as well for just the letterer to kind of put in his stuff. Man, the amount of work that Ditko's putting in here is just insane. I love the way he draws his drapery too. Beautiful, beautiful drapery. Great, again, great female face. You know, you see like J. Scott Campbell in there a little bit. You know, like when he's doing the Danger Girl stuff in that drawing there. Because I mean, everybody's got to be looking at Ditko. I mean, how could you not be? But yeah, beautiful, beautiful pencils. I love being able to see the stuff, especially when you see it at that size. It's really mind-blowing. You know, it's kind of like when you go to a museum and you see, you know, a large painting that you like see like on the internet or something, and then you see it in person, you go, oh my God. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's obviously not the originals, but it's as close to the originals as possible, and that's why I love these books so much. I mean, even the buildings and the structures are pretty much where they're going to be once he brings out that ink. So doing some interesting stuff with the inking as well. You know, he's definitely, it seems like he's using a pen. But it seems like there's some brushwork there. I don't know. But yeah. And then I love this panel here. He makes that look so big. That structure looks so big because that panel and the perspective that he's using in the composition, it just feels so big. And then Spider-Man, and you see the muscle striations as he's lifting it. It's just, man, like, where do you get reference for that? You know? And the water falling on his head. I mean, I mean, the water is very thick, but the dripping of the water coming down just looks so good. So good. It's so simple. It's so funny because it seems like it's so simple. He's just putting a line. He's like outlining it, and then I love that as he's lifting the structure above his head. And I love the pen work he's doing there with the hatching around the form. God. And then you go to that, and now it's like, okay, now you have to draw an underwater scene. And then I imagine, you know, Stanley's probably like, oh, you know, just, hey, we want him to take this big thing off of him, like push this big thing off of him, and go underwater for 3 or 4 pages. And you know, maybe Stanley wanted Steve off the book so that he could bring, you know, Romita Senior. You know, thinking like, I would prefer his art instead. And then Steve Ditko's just like, oh, I can draw it. So I think this is towards the end of his run. Man, great dynamic shots there. So much action, so much beautiful foreshortening. Just, oh, I love it. I really do love Steve Ditko. And I love that pose there too. him twisting, and those legs, the structure of his legs looks like very, very good. Man. Gotta love Ditko, for sure. Great. I definitely think that this is a book that if you really want to learn a lot about comic book art, like this is a book you should absolutely pick up for sure. Because there's a lot of great stuff going on here. Really, really great stuff. And Ditko, man, he's a master, just like Kirby was, you know? I feel like Kirby kind of gets a lot of the credit because he, you know, helped create or created, whoever you talk to, a plethora of ideas. And I kind of feel like Steve Ditko, it's like this, and I think he created The Question as well. I could be wrong. And then of course Mr. A, which I've gone over, and nobody talks about Mr. A, but Mr. A is pretty sweet. Very different than this though. I feel like towards the end, like some of Ditko stuff felt like he was kind of phoning it in. I think he had kind of like a sour feeling, kind of like Alan Moore. He did with, you know, with comics. And it's sad because I would have loved to have seen, you know, I wish we could live in a world where the artists were compensated correctly for the amount of work that they did. You know, but then again, nobody thought the stuff was going to be as big as it was. Nobody thought that, you know, Spider-Man was going to live on this long. I feel like comic books at that point were just trash media. People picked them up and they threw them away, and, you know, and nobody ever thought that this stuff would kind of withstand the test of time, and or stand, whatever, would last forever. And so things were a little bit different. But man, I wish that people had hindsight, 2020 hindsight, so we could see what Ditko would have done for Marvel later on. And then, oh yeah, and of course, oh my god, I'm forgetting Doctor Strange. So yeah, Doctor Strange as well, which you know, great book as well. I'd love to see. I don't know if there's a Doctor Strange artist edition of Ditko. I don't think there is. I think this is the first one, and Spider-Man is the correct choice to do first because I mean it's so iconic. I mean, yeah, he's just. He knows how to take those simple forms and make them so dynamic. And there's our guy there. There's like 3 known pictures of Steve Ditko ever. So, but this is the book, and that's the back cover, which I believe is different than the front cover, or the front part of the book. But being able to see his work that close, man, it seems like he's using like marker or something. I don't know. He's definitely using pen for sure. But I don't know how he's doing those blacks. If he's doing the pen, he must be pen and brush for sure. And then of course we have the back with Steve Ditko, and man, that cover is gnarly for sure. That sells a book 100%. 100% that sells you a book. Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.